Professor Rafikul Islam, thank you for your time and your availability, your knowledge sharing for today's session. Today we are going to discuss about some of the concepts in decision-making management, especially for the quantitative methods. Professor Rafikul Islam is the expert for this field, and then we hope we can learn more from you, Professor. And then without further ado, please, maybe it is very precious to have this time with you, Professor Rafikul Islam. Please, the session is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me share the screen first so that straight away I can begin. Huh? Okay, is it visible, the slide?
It's visible.
It's visible, okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salam ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen wa ala alihi ashabi ajma'in. Thank you very much, Dr. Tantawi, Dr. Reti, and other dignitaries, staff, students of Department of Management, Ireland University. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you very much for giving this opportunity to appoint me as adjunct professor, as well as giving me the chance to share some of my knowledge about this on this topic, decision making. It is indeed my great honor and privilege. And I know Ireland University a little bit. There are some students who did PhD from our faculty. I forgot their name. Maybe is it Aditya Sukmana? Is it is he from Ireland University?
Yes.
Professor.
Okay. So I know that there are some other students, may not be from my department, maybe other department, economics, because we have 4 departments in our faculty. So Ireland University, in fact, is very well known to us in Malaysia, compared to many other universities, I would say. So this morning in India, we have now 7:30, very early, and it's quite cold. So it's okay. I'll try as much as I can to talk, to share some thoughts about this decision making, especially using quantitative methods. Now, decision making is actually very large area. Decision making is a very large area. There are so many methods applied in the area of decision making, because there are categories of decision making. Therefore, there are many methods, many types of methods which can be applied to make decisions. Now, decisions making are very wide, widely diverse. So in this talk, about 1 hour, I will share some of the stuff which you see here. Common examples of decision making, 5 steps of decision making, quantitative analysis, quantitative methods. I will, the time is given the time 45 minutes. I'll be not able to share many other things, but I will be just pointing out more on linear programming. That is, I believe, one of the most widely used quantitative methods in decision making. Analytic hierarchy process also, though it is not very much well disposed in that at the bachelor level, but this is a very important quantitative method for decision making. And in the final part, I will be talking about principles of decision making. That is more or less applicable for all kinds of decision, not just only quantitative decision, but it is in these general principles to make decisions. Even these principles are applicable for personal decision making issues. Now, some common examples of decisions which we go through, like choosing a career. For example, I am a lecturer, some are doctors, some are engineers, some are chartered accountants, and so many others. There is certain time in our life, we have to make this decision. Whether to change your job, there are people who change their job. There are situations which compel us to think about this. So we have to make a decision. Selecting a life partner, obviously, this is a very important decision which all of us have to go through at certain instant of time in our life. Whether to attend a conference, whether to open a new branch of your company, which place where the branch can be opened. If we decide that our company should be opening a new branch, that is one decision itself. But the next decision will be in which place this branch should be opened. So that's also very, very vital decision called strategic decision. Whether to recruit a particular person for a particular position, this is a decision which human resource managers or the executive manager, they have to make this decision. Whether to close a particular department, sometimes we talk about downsizing. So these are some of the hundreds of examples of decision making which we people have to go through. So decision making is very, very vital. I have some couple of quotes here. Making a good decision is crucial skill at every level. Peter Drucker. You cannot make progress without making decision. This is another statement made by Jim Rohn. Life is about choices. Some we regret and some we are proud of. Some will haunt us forever. The message, we are what we chose to be. From Graham Brown. This also pinpoint to how important it is to make right decisions. So decisions we have to make, but we make sure that we make right decision. At least we should take all the precautionary measures, all the guidelines. If there are quantitative methods available, we use quantitative methods. We try our best to make good decisions. Despite that, we may make poor decisions, despite all our efforts, but then we have to take lessons from the decisions which did not come through as we expected to be. So I will discuss that part in my last section of my talk, Principles of Decision Making. So as I said, the decision making is widely diverse in every sphere of human life. We have to make decisions. So decision making is an important part of our life. As somebody has just said that today, whatever we are, it is because of our decisions. The students, you have come to the Department of Management, Erlangen University. So this is actually your decision or maybe your parent decision through which you have come here. Later on, you will be going through another important decision, whether you want to do masters or not. If you are doing masters, where you are going to do? Are you going to do in the same university or different university, same country or different country? After that, career, life partner, then in course of your career, so many decisions have to be made, especially if you are working as a manager of a company. Then of course there are many kinds of manager, like human resource manager, marketing manager, then IT manager. Every manager has to make decision. In fact, I remember one statement made by Herbert Simon, who won Nobel Prize in economics. He made in 1960, he developed his theory. In 1972, he won Nobel Prize in economics. He mentioned that the most important task of a manager is to make decisions. And I do say in my class often that that manager is a good manager who make good decisions, because the good decisions make the company. And if the bad decisions are made by the company manager, then everybody will suffer. So it is very important, it is a paramount importance that managers, they make good decisions. And since the decisions are very vital for making or breaking an organization, so researchers, people here, I mentioned is the researchers have continuously devised means and ways to enlarge their abilities to cope with the growing complexity of the decision-making problem. So decision-making problem could be quite complicated often, and therefore there are necessities to develop methods accordingly. So whatever be the type of decision-making problems, maybe human resource manager or IT manager or marketing manager or operations manager or quality assurance director, even the personal decision-making, um, uh, uh, all these decisions, every decision can be made using these 5 steps. What are these 5 steps? Define the problem, identify all the alternatives, identify all the criteria, evaluate all the alternatives, select the best alternative. These are the decision-making steps, especially if it is a deterministic type of problem. If it's a probabilistic type of problem, then slightly different. We don't have criteria as such, we have states of nature. So let me explain these 5 steps. Let's say after graduation, you are looking for a job. And normally we have to take a number of interviews. And let's say you are lucky enough to get 3 offers, 3 jobs, from 3 companies. So which company you are going to join? That is your first step. Define your problem. Means you need to know what is the actual problem for which you are going to make decision. So in this case, you are going to make decision to choose the best company, best job from your point of view. So then identify all the alternatives. In the organizational context, we need to do brainstorming. Brainstorming is very, very vital to identify all the possible alternatives. Sometimes we have to solve problem. To solve problem, we have to implement some policies, some solutions. So we can do brainstorming to identify all the possible solutions. Alternative means in this case, possible solutions. Identify all the relevant criteria. Then we have, let's say we have 5 alternatives. Then which alternative we're going to choose? In my job selection problem, the 3 companies for which you have got the job, these are the alternatives. Now, which job you are going to choose, we are going to join, you have to have criteria. The criteria also depends upon the of the person who is making decision. So in the job selection problem, the criteria could be salary, location of the company, reputation of the company, other benefits, etc. Now we will see that not a single company job excel with respect to all the criteria. Some job will be good with respect to some criterion, but may not be good with respect to other criteria. So we need to evaluate all the alternatives. And then when the evaluation is done, then we can select the best alternative. So we can apply these simple 5 steps, very, very simple and straightforward and systematic way to make the decision. One critical step is the evaluation of the alternative. How we are going to evaluate, that is actually the important question. And the good decision depends upon the right way to evaluate this alternative. So I'll be talking about this a little bit. That these 5 steps, the first 3 steps we call structuring the problem, and the second 2 steps are we call analyzing the problem. Now, analysis is of 2 types, qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis. Now, we prefer quantitative analysis because of 3 reasons. The first reason is that the problem, the decision-making problem is very complex, and it is not possible to obtain a solution without using a quantitative technique. So that's why we need to go for quantitative analysis. The problem is very important, and the manager desires a thorough analysis before attempting to make decision. So in that case, also we need to apply quantitative analysis. The problem comes on and off. So if the problem comes on and off, then it is better to do quantitative analysis, because first time we can spend a lot of time and we develop software, and then second time, third time onwards, we can use the software to make the decision. Now, quantitative analysis quantitative analysis is can be done in a number of steps. The first step is check whether the problem is well defined or not. This is a very important step in quantitative analysis. If the problem is not well defined, then the problem will not be solved. So we have to make sure that the problem is well defined. Then we need to develop a model for quantitative. If we want to apply quantitative method to make decision, we must make a model. Now, which kind of model? This is a model of aeroplane. Of course, we are not interested to develop this kind of model. This is also model of a building. It's called physical model. We are not interested to do on this. This is also a model, is amoeba. This is called iconic model. We are not interested on this. This is a DNA model. This is a nuclear atomic model. We are not interested on all this. What we are interested is on mathematical model. These are some of the physical science mathematical models like E equal to mc square, F equal to ma, F equal to gma on m2 r square by Sir Isaac Newton. We are all familiar with this, but these are physical science model. We need model in our decision making like this, but this model is very complicated. There could be some simple model also. So what I want to say that we need to develop a suitable mathematical model to make decision. Now, after development model, we need to go for data collection. This quantitative application of quantitative methods require data to be ingrained with the model which we have developed. And after data collection, then we develop solutions. Now, developing solutions require application of some algorithm. And if you see this person, his name is Al-Khwarizmi, is an ancient great mathematician. So who developed, who pioneered the concept of algorithm. So he said that the term algorithm is very close to his name, Al-Khwarizmi. So we need to develop we need to develop solutions using some algorithm, and then we can finally select the best solution. Often, if it is a mathematical model, often that solution could be the optimal solution, means the best solution. So what I have spoken here, that decision making can be done using 5 steps: define the problem, identify all the alternatives, identify all the criteria, evaluate all the alternatives, and then we select the best alternative. Now, evaluation can be done in a quantitative way, and here also there are 5 steps. Under step 4 of decision making, there are 5 steps. These steps are: check whether the problem is well defined or not. Number 2, develop a mathematical model of the problem which we are going to deal with. 3rd is collect necessary data. We expect that this will be quantitative data. Number 4, develop solutions, and then we implement the solutions. Now, in the organizational context, why do we make decision? We make decision to solve a problem. Like say in our university, let's say we have security problem. We have this problem, that problem, and we have to solve it. Our vice chancellor, deputy vice chancellor, dean, head of the departments, they all gear towards solving the university problem or organizational problem. Now, in this case, if we are talking about solving a problem, making some decision, then we must make sure that we identify the root cause of the problem. We often talk about solving the problem, but we overlook the root cause of the problem. So it is very important to find out the root cause of the problem. If we don't highlight or don't address the root cause of the problem, then possibly the problem will not be solved completely. So there is one statement here: careful analysis of an occurrence will usually show there is more than one cause. You will also find a cause of a cause and a cause of a cause of a cause. It is therefore imperative to consider whether the first cause you detect or a particular phenomenon is really the cause. What you intuitively feel is the cause is usually not the whole story. The true cause is usually hidden. If you go back at least 5 generations, of cause, you will likely find out the true cause. So I will give you one example here. I'll give you one example here. Let's say the customer received their shipment late. So the question is, why did our customer receive the shipment late? So that's the problem which the company faces. The customers are receiving their shipment late. So the question is, why did our customer receive the shipment late? The answer is because the dock shipped it late. Why did the dock ship it late? Because it received it after the cut-off time. Why did it receive the shipment after the cut-off time? Because we ran out of parts. Why did we run out of parts? Because the machine dropped some of them. Why did the machine drop some of them? Because the nozzle did not have enough vacuum. Why was not there enough vacuum? Because we failed to do our preventive maintenance on the machine. So the root cause here is that the organization did not do the preventive maintenance on the machine. And due to that, finally the customers are receiving. So the root cause is actually hidden. And in this example, I have shown that the actual reason is 5 generations in the backward direction. So the manager who is entrusted to solve the problem need to brainstorm maybe something in this way, why? And then the actual root cause will be identified, and then the problem will be solved completely and effectively. We hope so. Okay, now, as we are talking about quantitative methods, there are so many quantitative methods to make decision, especially in the organizational context, especially in the area of resource allocation, like budget allocation. We can apply linear programming. Also, optimization of resources. Optimization of resources is very important in the product mix problem, in advertising, in investment analysis. We can apply linear programming. It's a bit technical, but it is a very, very helpful, very widely applied mathematical method to make decision. Then selection, decision making itself per se, we can apply analytic hierarchy process. Project management, especially in the area of that what are the critical activities, so that the project manager can concentrate more on these activities. So then we can apply part CPM part. Production planning is very vital for production manager. So production manager can apply transportation model to make decision regarding production planning. Queuing models are available in the literature. Inventory models, so many inventory models are available in the literature. All are actually analytic, but there are cases where analytic models is very difficult to tackle, to deal with. In that case, we can apply simulation model to make decision. There's another bit high level compared to linear programming. There is another vital is applied in industrial engineering a lot, which is called goal programming. So in this particular talk, I'll be mostly concentrating on the first two, linear programming and analytic hierarchy process. Linear programming, as I said, that linear programming is a very versatile, very useful, very widely applied. And by this time, it is quite matured mathematical programming method for applications in the area of industrial engineering. Every organization uses resources. Resources could be manpower, resources could be raw materials, resources could be time, budget, space availability in the organization. And all these resources are limited. No organization has got unlimited resources. So we have to see, the managers have to see how to utilize these limited resources in the best possible manner. And linear programming is an answer. So linear programming is an outstanding mathematical model which can answer this question. So the question is how to utilize the limited organizational resources in the best possible manner. So that's the identity of linear programming. It is applied in two phases. In the first phase is formulation, and the second phase is the solution. Formulation, I believe that since the students are in third year, you are exposed to this, that there are either maximization or minimization. And the solution can be done graphical method, but graphical method is not practically okay, because practically the number of variables could be more than 2. Graphical method is applicable for variable only 2. So we need to go for simplex method, and of course we're using the software. A typical linear programming looks like this for simple problem, but in practically there could be hundreds or thousands of variables, decision variables, also hundreds or thousands of constraints. So we need to apply some software. There are standalone software like Lingo, which is commercially available but a bit expensive. We can use Microsoft Excel solver, add scene, then we can also solve very large scale linear programming problems. So this is just a screenshot of Microsoft Excel solver. It's quite elegant method. I used to teach simplex method before to my students, but time has been changed. So the software is widely available, and the managers, they will not be manually solving their practical problems. They will be using software. So in this case, Excel is available readily. So we can make use of Excel solver to solve linear programming problem. So linear programming has been applied in many areas, especially in industrial engineering problem solving, in mechanical engineering, civil engineering, of course, on top of this management and accounting. Now, linear programming deals with basically one objective function, either maximization or minimization. But there are numerous cases. There are numerous cases where the number of objective are many, and we call them mostly criteria. Number of criteria are many. So we have multiple criteria decision making. For example, when I was deputy dean in my faculty a couple of years ago, we know that every year in the faculty we have to select the best student for award. Now these are the students, and these are their marks. So the CGPA of Fatin Marina Zakaria is 3.77. All right, and Aziz Zainuddin, his CGPA is 3.86. So if we have only CGPA, then of course Aziz Zainuddin is the best among all the students. But the faculty has kept extracurricular activities is another criterion. So this is a multiple criteria decision-making problem. Now, if we look, Fatin Marina Zakaria, he got extracurricular activity 855 points. There are some ways which we can calculate these points in the faculty. So if you combine the CGPA and co-curricular activities together, then Fatin Marina is getting overall the score is 3.86, whereas Aziz Zainuddin, he got 560 as the core curricular points. So his total score is 3.81. So despite the fact that Aziz Zainuddin has higher CGPA, but finally Fatin Marina was selected as the best student. So this is one simple real example where we make decision based upon multiple criteria. And in reality, most of the time, the decisions to be made involve multiple criteria. Look at this, the same example I gave, that when you are, when you face that you have to choose the best job, then best job, best company, how you are going to select? Naturally, you will not be selected only on basis of salary. You will be also interested in the job security, working environment, advancement opportunity, location of the company, reputation of the company, etc. So this is a very, very common occurrence in our everyday life, not only personal life, but also in organizational context. For example, if you want to recruit someone, then recruitment is not just basis on the basis of the CGPA or the academic qualification. Recruitment should be based upon the person's attitude, person's track record, letter of recommendation, etc., etc. So we need some methodology to find out the best alternative when we deal with multiple criteria. And in the literature, there are many, like electrory, simple additive weighting method, elimination by aspects, lean map, permutation method, etc., and also analytic hierarchy process. So analytic hierarchy process was developed in 1977 by Professor Thomas Elsati from University of Pittsburgh, who passed away 2 years ago at the age of 92. He developed this method to solve this kind of problem, where we have multiple criteria, and notably, some of the criteria are very, very subjective, and some of the criteria are objective. Like salary could be objective, but most of the other criteria are, most of the other criteria are subjective. So subjectivity is a part and parcel of our decision-making problem. So the method which we apply must be must be able to deal with the subjective criteria as well. So analytic hierarchy process is a very popular multiple criteria quantitative decision-making method. So I'll be talking a little bit about this. So if we want to apply analytic hierarchy process, then we have to develop a hierarchy like this. So this hierarchy, the first level will be comprising the selection of the goal of the problem. In this case, the goal of the problem is selection of the best job. In employee selection, it will be selection of the best employee. Or in the if the issue is the solving some problem, then you just mention solving this problem. And this level usually comprises the criteria. In this case, there are 6 criteria: salary, research, growth, working environment, location, reputation. Sometimes the criteria can have sub-criteria. So in this case, there are no sub-criteria. And the last level, this is the last level, are the alternative. So every multiple criteria decision-making problem where we are applying an analytic hierarchy process, there should be a hierarchy just like this. And then AHP requires pairwise comparisons for the criteria as well as the alternative. So we have to compare salary and research between these two, which one is more important to the decision maker, and then how much more. So it is a pairwise comparison. So there'll be lots of pairwise comparison, like salary with respect to research, salary with respect to growth, salary with respect to working environment, all possible pairs. Then research with respect to growth, research and working environment, research and reputation, growth with respect to working environment with respect to location, location, reputation. So there is a formula. If there are n factors, then the number of comparisons should be n times n minus 1 divided by 2. So after pairwise comparisons, we will be having a pairwise comparison matrix, and analytic hierarchy process uses 1 to 9 scale. It does not use 1 to 5 scale. 1 to 5 scale is very widely used, like at scale, but in AHP, we don't use 1 to 5. AHP, we use 1 to 9 scale, and there is also a meaning of these numbers. 1 means equally important, 3 means moderately more important, 5 means strongly more important, etc. So using these scales, we develop a matrix. This matrix is known as pairwise comparison matrix. So this matrix, this is the data which you have to collect from the decision maker or from the respondents. And after this, we have to also make pairwise comparisons of the alternatives. So in this case, there are 3 alternatives: company A, company B, company C, with respect to salary. So what are their standings of the three companies, three jobs with respect to salary, then with respect to research, then with respect to growth, with respect to working environment, with respect to location, and finally with respect to reputation. So there will be 6 Pairwise comparison matrices for the alternatives, and there's one matrix for the criteria, and these weights to be determined using software. So this is the screenshot of the software. There are 2 popular software for analytic hierarchy process. These are called expert choice. So there is a website expertchoice.com, and there is also another popular software called Super Decision. So www.superdecisions.com also. So this software is Super Decision software is free until now, but expert choice is quite expensive software. So the users can download the Super Decision software and can solve this problem. So this is the screenshot. After using this, we can get all these weights, and then we apply this synthesis process. This is called synthesis formula for AHP. So then we get the total, the overall weights. So the overall weight of A, company A, or means a job A, is 0.38. Overall weight for company B is 0.36, and C is 0.26. So as long as the overall weights are concerned, so selection to be made for A. So the person who is facing this dilemma, which company should he join? So the answer is A. The answer is A. But in organizational context, if we are solving a problem, then these matrices should be developed basis upon each individual respondent, and then we need to apply geometric mean averaging formula to get the average pairwise comparison matrix. Once we get the average pairwise comparison matrix, then we can get this. We can key in the data in the software, and then we will get the weight. So finally, we will get the overall score, overall weights of the alternatives A, B, C. And if we have many alternatives also, it is possible to find out that. So this is one very important quantitative method for decision making. This is not only decision making, this is also very popular quantitative research method. Quantitative research method for research in many areas of social science, especially in management. Many of my PhD students, they have graduated and their main methodology was analytic hierarchy. Right now, I have 7 PhD students, and out of 7, 5 are applying AHP as their main research method. So AHP is a very, very versatile quantitative decision-making method, as well as a very versatile quantitative research method. Now, last couple of minutes, I'll be talking about these principles of decision-making. There are 6 or 7 principles which I would like to share with you. Logic versus emotion. Now, to make decision, we need a combination of both. Not exclusively logic and not exclusively emotion. Both are necessary to make a vital decision. Logic means sometimes why not 100% logic? Because sometimes the logic says that you should make decision, but if we look at the situation from other angle, then we should not be accepting this logic. One example is that suppose some particular country in the world, if you want to make a good relation with this country, then you will be better off in many respects. But your principles say that no, you should not make good relation with this particular country. So logic says that yes, you will be economically benefited, but other ways, the principle, the ethics, the other things says that no, you should not make good relationship with this country. So the logic itself is not playing 100%. Emotion means basically passionate. So there should be some passion to make good decisions, but one may caution you that never make permanent decision on temporary feelings. Sometimes people are too much passionate, too much emotional, then that is also not good. So the logic and emotion, they should be coming together as a balance. Don't let your emotions make your decisions. Then second principle is value system. You know, we are Muslims, we have our Islamic values. So whenever we make decisions, we have to look at our Islamic values, our Islamic ethics, our Islamic norms, and which could be quite different from the values with the Western people they have. So Western people, they make decision based upon their value system. For them, this is their right decision. For us, it may not be right decision because we have our own value system. So when we make decision, we also need to check whether this decision is consistent with our value system or not. From Islamic perspective, and also some decision-making experts, they all suggest that while make decision, don't make decision alone. Consult with others. Consult with others. In fact, there is one hadith where Abu Huraira Radiallahu Anhu mentioned that I have not seen anyone who is consulting more than Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was a prophet. His knowledge base used to be enriched by revealed knowledge. So, but despite that fact, he used to consult a lot with his fellow companions. So this is very important for us, that views from different perspectives are surfaced, which can cover the entire area of consideration. Provides opportunity for others to express their opinions. In the organizational context, if we do not involve other managers in making decisions, while implementing the decision, they may reject or they may resist. So this is a strategy that the manager should consult with others to make decision or before making an important decision. Through consultation, the chance of identifying the best solution is more compared to individuals' effort. So, brothers and sisters, it is very important to consult others while making important decisions. It could be your personal decision, it could be your career decision, it could be your organizational decision, or you are working as a manager. Always try to consult others while making an important decision. Okay, then 2 ground rules for consultation. While consulting others, you should not influence them to be in agreement with you. Sometimes we make this kind of mistake, that we want to make decision and we are consulting and we want them that to comply with what we want. But in that case, this is meaningless to go for consultation. While we are consulting others, then we should be in open mind, whatever they are telling. Then later on, we may accept their views or we may not accept their views, but we should be in open mind. Then another one, if your team comprises people belonging to different groups, then make sure that you listen from all the groups. Like at the time of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there are 2 groups. One group is Muhajirin, another one is Ansar. So two distinct groups. So when Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to consult, and he used to consult both groups. So this is important lesson for us. Learn from past mistakes. There is one wisdom that once a father advises his son that if someone cheats you, then shame for that person who has cheated you. But if the same person cheats you again, then shame for you. Why? Because how come a person cheat you again and again? So first time, yes, first time you are cheated, but you should have taken lesson from the same person cannot cheat you again. Since you have not taken lesson, that's why. Second time, if the same person cheats you, then shame for you. Bill Gates said this: it is fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lessons of failure. Failure will come in our life often. This is something almost guaranteed, I will say. The failure is very common. Success will come, failure will also come. Sometimes failure comes to teach our lesson, but do we take lesson? Do we take lesson from the failure? So the wise people, they will take lesson from the failure, so that same mistake in decision making will not make in future. So this is very important to learn from our past mistakes. Avoid acting on hurry means avoid making decision on hurry. And this incident is very well known, Titanic disaster, which came in 1912 on the night of April 14, 19, more than 1,000 people were drowned is a very well-known story. But there is a story behind this story. And this story is here. On the night of April 14, 1912, the watchman assigned to the crew's nest post atop the Titanic had a problem. The binoculars he needed to keep an eye out of the large obstacles, that's iceberg, were inside a locked locker, and the key was missing. Right before this is the important statement, right before the ship left port, the cruise company made a last-minute decision to replace the ship's second officer, David Blair, with Charles Light Troller. In his haste to make the switch, Blair forgot to hand over the keys to the locker. So David Blair was supposedly to be going with the ship, and he had the key of the locker. But David Blair was suddenly last moment, he was replaced by Charles Light Troller with a haste. But they forgot to give David forgot to give the key to the Charles Light, and then the disaster happened. Had there been the key of the locker, then the binocular was there, so the binocular can detect the iceberg, and of course the ship captain could have diverted the route, because the iceberg is dangerous, but it was not detected. So all happened due to the hasty decision made at the time of replacement of David Blair by Charles Light Troller. So this important story tells us that we should not make decision on haste. We should think, we should take time, we should collect information, and then we make decision. Next is take a long-term view. There are two types of gain: short-term gain and long-term gain. In this case, I will share with the Toyota's 14 principles, which is very popular. We teach in the operations management class, Toyota's 14 principles. The first principle is base your management decisions on a long-term philosophy, even at the expense of short-term financial goals. Base of your management decisions on a short-term philosophy, even at the expense of short-term financial goals. So it's a long-term. Then Toyota again saying that make decisions slowly by consensus, thoroughly by considering all options, but implement decisions rapidly. So the Toyota is saying that don't go first, take time and make decision for long-term gain. Though you, at the initially you have to sacrifice some short-term gain. Just few more slides. Pros and cons. Sometimes we face a decision which are dichotomous. Dichotomous means either to go or not to go, either to do it or not to do, either to attend or not to attend. So in this case, Benjamin Franklin, he first time mentioned that we can go for pros and cons, means if we do what is my benefit, if we don't do what is my loss. So we can write down the pros means the favorable things, and cons means the unfavorable things. And we can also assign weights to those like this. That should we attend the training program overseas? There are pros: gaining knowledge, exposure in foreign country, improved skills, and also some cons: away from family and expenses. And we can assign weightages, and we can see whether the pros weight is more than the cons, or the cons weight is more than the pros. And then accordingly, we can make the decision. So these are the few principles. There are some others, but I think these are quite prominent principles. And then once we make decision, then we implement. Once you have made your decision, don't look back, make it work. Make it work. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in Surah Al-Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, it's 59, verse number 159, that when you have taken a decision, put your trust in Allah. Certainly Allah loves those who put their trust in Him. So this verse says that we take all the precautionary measures, all the principles, all the whatever necessary things to be done. We make a decision, but the result actually comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we make decision, we implement the decision, and then we depend upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the good result. Wabillahi tawfiq al-hidayah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor, for your very insightful delivery. So everyone, students, do you have something to discuss with the professor? Okay, while we're waiting for the discussion, Professor, may I ask a question? Generally speaking, what are the limitations for using the quantitative methods for the decision making? So,
limitation means that we have to see. Let's say I have a disease, and I have to go to the doctor, and the doctor will give the medicine. Of course, that should be the right medicine. So for every disease, there is a right medicine. Similarly here, decision-making problems like say analytic hierarchy process, where you have a number of criteria, some criteria are subjective, some criteria objective, and then you go for analytic hierarchy process. But if the method is linear programming limitation is that the criteria must be quantifiable in terms of mathematical functions. If we cannot express, like say, reputation or location of the company, it is very hard to represent is using mathematical function. So in that case, the linear programming cannot be applied. Linear programming is very powerful methodology when you can express your objective, either maximization or minimization in terms of mathematical functions, then it is perfect. So, so the main limitation is this. And also we need to, you know, the reality is very complicated, very hard. Even if we model, if we take all the features of the reality, the problem, the mathematical model which we'll be developing could be quite daunting, would be very intractable. So in that case, the quantitative methods will not be applicable. We have to go for simulation model. So like that, each method has its own area of application. If the area goes beyond that, then we have to apply another kinds of method. Like as I said, part CPM is applicable only for project management. Part CPM is not applicable for other kinds of. So linear programming is applicable for the problem where it is supposedly to be applied. Like lean map is applicable for this. Goal programming is applicable for. So every method has its own area of application. So that could be the limitation of the quantitative methods.
Okay, as you mentioned earlier that maybe we could propose something. We could propose a solution for the users or for the leaders to decide something. While sometimes also they have like intuition, or they already have lean to specific decision comparing what we actually propose. How about that situation, Professor?
The leaders, they have their own ideas. They have their own solutions. As I mentioned that Prophet Muhammad SAW had all the ideas, but he did not right away implement. You know the Battle of Khandak. Battle of Khandak, the Khandak idea was not from him. Khandak idea was, digging the Khandak was idea of Salman Farsi, radiallahu anhu. but he accepted this. This is a very brilliant idea, and people accepted, all people accepted. So I will say that the leaders, despite they have their own ideas, they can share their ideas with the fellow colleagues, but they should consult with the colleagues and then collectively make the decision. The advantage is that the many options are available. Sometimes the best idea may be coming from a sweeper, maybe coming from a cleaner, which we may be getting surprised, but nobody monopolizes the best ideas. Best idea may come from anyone. So there should be some environment of mutual consultation, and then we can make a better decision. And as I mentioned, then the resistance of implementation will be also less, because they have to, the leaders will be implementing. Leader cannot do everything by themselves. The things have to be done by the people layer down. So when the leaders, they consult others, then the implementation will be very easy for them.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor, for your perspective.
Okay.
And Dr. Yeti, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tantowi. Prof. Rafikul, can you share to us a quantitative tool that is most widely used in decision-making in companies today, especially in pandemic condition?
What is the most widely used quantitative methods?
I don't know, maybe the most used to solve the company problem, like maybe
okay, there are two kinds of companies, largely speaking. One is a large company like multinational companies, and the small companies. Now, large companies, they have budget, so they can even appoint the consultants, because these quantitative methods application by companies, it requires expertise, technical expertise on the part of the problem solver. And many times the organizational personnel may not have that expertise, so they can appoint management science consultants. So these management science consultants will come to these companies and they will diagnose the problem. As I said, diagnosis is very important. If the diagnosis is that the organization is wasting its resources, then they may suggest to apply linear programming, or they have product mix problem or scheduling problem, and so on. So the large companies, they can apply linear programming, goal programming, analytic hierarchy process, etc., etc. But the problem is the small size companies. For them, applications of these so-called technical methods is a luxury for them. So they may apply some suitable, simpler technique like brainstorming. They can do the brainstorming. They can just discuss among themselves, and they can just find out somehow without resorting to hard quantitative methods, because it is luxury for them and they cannot appoint the management science consultant. So for them, I will suggest that if it's a really quantitative, but they cannot appoint the consultant, they may just simple apply, like say, if it is a probability is involved, they can apply decision tree diagram, they can just apply expected value principles, and so on. So simple methods which are applicable to that particular problem, so they can apply those simple problems. But the large size problem, they should be going for like application of linear programming, goal programming, and so on.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Rafikul. This means that we need to use the quantitative tools exactly like the problem that we were going to solve, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We should try. We should try to apply quantitative methods. The question is why people are not applying. Simply because that they are afraid that time consuming. Yes, whatever we do, first time we have to spend time, but second time, third time onwards, we will be better off. But people are not ready to even to spend time first time. So that's the problem. So if the managers are bold, courageous, they will spend their time first time and things are sorted out. second time, third time, they will be better off. So my suggestion will be the future managers, they should try to apply the suitable quantitative methods to make decisions to solve problems. Then third time, second time, third time, they should be better off. So that is my my suggestion to the future managers.
Thanks so much, Professor. So we have a question left, probably from Dr. Indrianawati Usman. Please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Tantowi. Assalamualaikum, Prof. Thank you for your valuable sharing and insight about the decision making and also using the quantitative method to the research. Yeah, Professor, if we use quantitative method in our supervision student, yeah, sometimes people ask, is that quantitative or is it qualitative approach? Yeah. And right now it's still confusing. Yeah. What is the answer? I think you mentioned, yeah, in your previous presentation, it is in quantitative approach. Yeah, but I need an explanation. Thank you, Prof.
Quantitative method is ingrained inside quantitative approach. Quantitative approach cannot be materialized without quantitative methods. For example, you think about any quantitative method, any A to Z, any quantitative method, there is some ways to apply. Like if you talk about linear programming, this is very technical. Now, linear programming application requires identification of the decision variables, number one. Then identification of the constraints. Once we have done this, then we have to go for formulation and make sure that the formulation is correctly done. If formulation is wrong, then the solution will be also wrong. Then fourth approach is that solution using the software. So this is the approach. And behind this, all this approach, the method is linear programming. If we talk about, say, analytic hierarchy process is very widely applied for making decision, then if we want to apply analytic hierarchy process, that is a quantitative method, we have to follow the approach. The process means we develop the hierarchy of the problem. We form the pairwise comparison matrices for the criteria as well as the alternatives. Number three, we extract the weights, the priorities from the pairwise comparison matrices, and then finally we synthesize. So this is the approach for applying analytic hierarchy process. So what I want to say that there is an approach, but this approach is actually coming from or dictated by the necessity of the way a quantitative method should be applied. So quantitative method dictates the approach. Without quantitative method, there is no approach. Approach means there is a quantitative method, and if this method is to be applied, then the right approach should be adopted.
Thank you, Prof.
Welcome.
Okay, Dr. Ganjar, do you have something as a closing remark?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tantowi. And thank you, Prof. Rafikul Islam. I have many things to learn in here, even that I'm not from operation management concentration, but I'm enjoying because it really have meaningful to our student and our lecturer. So I have lesson to learn today that first of all, this is something that we didn't give to most our students, the spiritual background that we should involving God to consult when we decide something. In Islam, we have istikharah, right?
Yes.
When we have to decide something. But sometimes when people decide, they only said, we already done things, so it's up to God to decide. We just involving God in the end of our decision. We didn't involve God from the beginning. So I think it's remind us, thank you for reminding us to give the spiritual insight to our lecturer and to our student, that we should involving God in from the beginning when we have a problem. And then we can have musyawarah with others to have other perspective. We could using IT, and you already mentioned so many methods to solve problems that we have, and maybe there will be decision support system also in the company. They can make they can develop many programs, decision support system for them. So we should using IT in this day. And we should learn and evaluate based on our past data and information that we have. Maybe we could have some punctuation from the evaluation. But in the end, we should agile in this era, but we should not in rush to decide. There should be risk mitigation. So this is the lesson that I learned today from you, Prof. Rafikul Islam. Thank you for reminding us. So hopefully that is only the beginning for our collaboration, because we already invite many professors from IUM. There is Prof. Tahir Chan and Prof. Ridwan Fontaine, and now we have you. Thank you again.
Okay,
we
good.
Hopefully that there will be collaboration, especially research with our lecturer and student. Barakallah. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yeah.
I think it's also I think it's also a wrap up from Dr. Ganjar as a conclusion from this session. We thank you so much, Professor, for your delivery, and I think that will be our the end of this discussion from the guest lecture. And after this, maybe Dr. Yeti, right, will lead the other agenda with you.
Okay, Prof. Rafikul, can you have a minute for discussing about article with me and Dr. Indrianawati?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. After
Welcome. Okay.
After the student left the Zoom.
Okay.
Student,
all right.
You may leave the room, and don't forget to submit your assignment with today's session. Thank you so much for your attendance, and Professor Rafikul Islam, we do apologize for any inconvenience. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. Rafikul Islam.
Thank you,
Okay, welcome.
Pak Tantowi.